You have $1 billion, and nobody knows. Not your neighbors, not your barber, not the woman at the gas station who waves every morning, because you always pay in cash and never rush her. You're not hiding. Not exactly. You're just ordinary on purpose. While everyone else is out here chasing the look of wealth, you quietly became the thing itself. And the strangest part is that the number showed up in a spreadsheet attachment on a Monday. No fireworks, no phone call. Just you standing in a self-storage hallway, trying to figure out why Unit 214's lock had been cut. It starts with a storage unit auction on a rainy October morning, 11 years ago. Not a plan, not a vision, just a Saturday you had nothing better to do with. You'd read online that when people stop paying their storage bills, the facility auctions off the contents to strangers standing around with flashlights, and something about that idea wouldn't leave you alone. So you go. You stand in a gravel lot with 9 other people, mostly older men in canvas jackets who clearly do this every week. And you watch the manager cut a padlock off Unit 118 and roll the door up 6 inches so everyone can peek inside with a flashlight for 90 seconds before bidding starts. You don't buy anything that first day. You just watch. You watch a man pay $340 for a unit that turns out to have a decent mid-century dresser inside, worth maybe $600 to the right buyer. You watch the math happen in real time, in public, for anyone patient enough to notice. You go home that night and you don't think about the dresser. You think about the building. Who owns the building? What a storage facility actually earns per square foot, per month, per unit. Whether the person cutting locks and running auctions is the same person collecting rent, or whether there's a layer above him you haven't considered yet. It takes you 3 weeks of quiet research to understand what you're actually looking at. A self-storage facility with 240 units, averaged out, running around 88% occupancy, at $95 a unit a month, generates a little over $240,000 a year in gross revenue. Expenses are almost embarrassingly low. No plumbing to speak of. No kitchens, no bedrooms, no tenants calling at midnight about a broken heater. Just steel doors, gravel, and a fence. Net margins on a well-run facility can sit above 55%. You do the math sitting on the edge of your bed with a laptop balanced on your knees, and the math does something to you. Not excitement exactly. Something quieter and more permanent than excitement. You spend $210,000 of savings and a small loan on a rundown 60-unit facility outside a mid-sized city. The kind of property nobody wants because the office trailer has a hole in the roof and half the gate motors don't work. You fix the gate. You pressure wash the pavement. You raise occupancy from 61% to 84% over 14 months by doing almost nothing except answering the phone quickly and keeping the place clean. The first full year, it nets $71,000. Nobody congratulates you. Your coworker at the time got a bigger bonus that same December for hitting a sales quota. You sit with your number on a Sunday night and feel something that isn't pride and isn't disappointment. It's quieter than both. You don't stop because you're not looking at the $71,000. You're looking at what it proves. You start watching everything differently after that. Billboards on state highways. The narrow strip of land beside a busy interstate off-ramp where 3 different fast food drive-thrus compete for the same left turn. Car washes with a line at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. Vending routes inside factory break rooms. You stop seeing businesses and start seeing the land and the systems underneath them. The quiet architecture that keeps producing whether or not anyone is watching it. Within 4 years, you own 6 storage facilities across 2 states. You buy your first piece of billboard ground through a county tax auction, the kind held in a fluorescent-lit government building on a Tuesday morning where almost nobody bothers to show up except 3 tired regulars. And now, you pay $52,000 for a narrow strip along a state route. An outdoor advertising company leases the ground from you for the next 11 years, with annual increases built into the contract. You never touch the sign. You just get paid. Your accountant's name is Priya. She has been doing books for small operators for over 20 years. She has seen every kind of chaos: restaurant owners with a shoebox of receipts, contractors who don't know their own margins, people who confuse revenue with money they're allowed to spend. She does not impress easily. She sits across from you at a folding table in the back office of your 3rd storage facility, the one with the space heater that never quite works, and you hand her a folder. She reads it slowly. She doesn't say anything for a while. Then she looks up and says, "This might be the most boring portfolio I have ever reviewed." She means it as a mild jab. You take it as the nicest thing anyone has said to you in years, because boring was always the design, not an accident. Here is what the folder says. 9 self-storage facilities across 3 states, combined gross revenue just under $2.1 million a year. Net income, after debt service and maintenance, sitting around $980,000. 4 billboard land parcels on state highways in 2 states, paying between $1,100 and $2,600 a month each in ground rent, almost entirely passive. A 26% ownership stake in a regional commercial laundry service company, the kind that supplies clean linens to hotels and hospitals, bought quietly from a retiring founder who wanted out slowly instead of all at once. And 11 acres of undeveloped land beside a growing interstate interchange, purchased for $310,000 9 years ago, currently appraised north of $4 million. Doing absolutely nothing except sitting there, appreciating, while somebody else's traffic count goes up every year. Priya asks if you're thinking about anything more aggressive: tech, crypto, some kind of fund. You tell her no. She nods the way people nod when they respect the answer without fully agreeing with it. What she doesn't say, and maybe doesn't need to, is that every asset in that folder shares the same quiet trait. People will always need somewhere to put their extra belongings. Hospitals will always need clean linens delivered on time. Cars will always drive past that stretch of highway whether or not they want to look at the sign. Land near a growing interchange does not care what the stock market did this week. None of it is interesting. All of it is durable. There's a man at a real estate meetup you attend twice a year, mostly out of habit. He wears a quarter zip that costs more than your last 4 fill-ups combined, and he talks about his portfolio the way other people talk about their kids loudly. And toward whoever happens to be standing closest, he drives a black G-Wagon with paper plates because it's still fresh off the lot. You drove here in a 2018 Toyota Tundra with just under 100,000 miles and a dent in the tailgate you've been meaning to pull out for over a year. When he asks what you do, you say storage units, a little land, nothing exciting. You watch him do the math on your face, your truck, your flannel shirt from a farm supply store. You watch him sort you into a category and quietly turn his attention elsewhere. That small dismissal is worth more to you than anything else that will happen at the meetup, because the moment someone stops paying attention to you, you're finally free to move. People assume stealth wealth is about humility. Maybe for some people it is. For you, it's structural. The truck starts every morning without complaint and draws zero attention in any parking lot in the country. The average new vehicle now runs close to $49,000, financed at monthly payments most people never fully escape. You paid cash for the Tundra 6 years ago and haven't made a payment since. Every dollar that isn't going toward a car note is compounding somewhere quietly instead. Your house is a modest 4-bedroom on a cul-de-sac you've lived in for 13 years. The mortgage has been gone for 3 of them. Your neighbors think you run a handful of small storage places and do fine. They're not wrong. They're just off by several zeros, and you've never once felt the need to correct them, because the moment people know what you actually have, the room changes temperature, conversations shift. A distant cousin finds a reason to call after 4 years of silence. Someone at a barbecue mentions a business idea that just needs a little seed money to get moving. Your closest friend since high school is named Dominic. He coached your daughter's rec league soccer team for 2 seasons, even though his own kids had aged out of the league years earlier, just because nobody else volunteered. He drove 4 hours each way to be at your father's funeral, and didn't say a word about it afterward, like it was simply what you do. 4 months ago, Dominic called on an ordinary Thursday, but there was something sitting underneath the small talk. He'd spent 3 years building a small specialty coffee roasting business, good product, loyal following, a waiting list at farmers markets, and he had a chance to lease a small commercial roasting space that would let him triple output and finally supply 2 local grocery chains that wanted him in. He needed $140,000. You could have sent it before he finished the sentence. To your current balance sheet, $140,000 is roughly 9 days of passive income across the portfolio. It would not register as a sacrifice in any real sense, but you didn't send it. You sat with the phone against your ear and let the silence stretch a second longer than comfortable. Because you've learned something the hard way over the years, money handed to someone who isn't structurally ready for it doesn't solve the problem underneath it. It just accelerates whatever was already there. If the lease terms are bad, more money just means a faster, more expensive version of the same mistake. And so often, when it goes wrong, the money isn't the only thing that disappears. So instead, you asked if you could come by Saturday. You sat at Dominic's kitchen table with a legal pad for 3 hours, going through his lease terms, his equipment financing, quote, his margin per bag after wholesale pricing. You found that the lease had a personal guarantee clause buried on page 11 that would have put his house on the line if the wholesale accounts fell through in year 2. You asked what would happen if the grocery chains cut the order by 40% after the first quarter. He hadn't run that number. Nobody had ever asked him to. You went back the Saturday after that, and the one after that. By the 4th week, Dominic had renegotiated the lease to remove the personal guarantee, found a smaller equipment financing package through a regional credit union, and structured a phased build-out that didn't require the full $140,000 up front at all. He signed in early spring. He called you the night he got the keys, voice a little unsteady the way people get when something they've worked toward for years finally becomes real. He said he couldn't have done it without you. You never told him what you could have simply written a check for. You probably never will, because that's not what the story needed to be. His business, built on his decisions, is worth more to him than anything your signature could have purchased for him. But there are rooms in your life nobody gets invited into. That part never gets lighter. It isn't the secrecy itself you made peace with. That years ago. It's the particular weight of sitting across from someone you love while they carry something you could remove in under a minute, and knowing, fully and without doubt, that removing it would be the wrong thing to do. That knowledge doesn't come with applause. Some nights it just sits there next to you. The email lands on a Monday at 6:48 a.m. You are standing in the fenced lot of your original storage facility, the first one. With the gate motor, you fixed yourself all those years ago because someone cut the lock off Unit 214 overnight, and the property manager needs you to confirm what's missing before the police report gets filed. You are holding a bolt cutter that isn't yours and scrolling your phone with the other hand, mostly out of habit, when the subject line catches your eye. Q2. Consolidated Summary Final. It's from Priya. She sends these every quarter, same format, same plain font she's used for 2 decades. You usually read them at the kitchen table on a Sunday with coffee. This time you open it standing in gravel, with a stranger's cut lock in your other hand. The number at the top of the summary reads $1.03 billion in total verified net worth across real property, business equity, and portfolio holdings. You stand there for a moment. A delivery truck idles somewhere near the front gate. The property manager is on the phone with the police, giving them the unit number, spelling your last name for the report. Nobody around you knows. The gravel doesn't know. The cut lock in the dirt by your boot doesn't know. The number exists, quietly, inside a phone, in the hand of a person, standing in a storage lot, at 6:48 in the morning, holding evidence for a break-in report. Still needing to figure out what kind of replacement lock to buy on the way home. You thought this moment would feel different. You'd imagined it the way everyone imagines, a milestone, a shift in the air, some internal recalibration marking a before and an after. Instead, there is gravel under your boots, a stranger's stolen padlock at your feet, and a spreadsheet with a comma in a place commas don't usually go. You put the phone back in your pocket. You still have to deal with Unit 214. The number will still be there this afternoon. It always is. That's the whole point.